Okay, so I'm now going to start working on my factory contract that will handle the deployment and record of all the deployed instances and campaigns, just like you saw in this diagram in the previous video. But before I write a single line of code, I want to give you a quick outline of this factory campaign. I'm going to call it Campaign Factory, and I have a diagram for that. I'll pull it up real quick. Actually just saw it. I could grab it a little quicker. But... All right. So as I said, I'm going to call it Campaign Factory, and this contract will have one variable, an array of addresses that contains all of the deployed campaigns that have ever been created. The Campaign Factory will have two functions. First, it will have the create campaign function, and it will deploy a new instance of an individual campaign and store the resulting address back inside the deployed campaigns array. And I also need the ability to get the list of campaigns back from the application, and for that I will implement a get deployed campaigns function. And all this does is return all of the data inside of the deployed campaigns. So whenever we create an array with Solidity, the built-in getter that is provided for an array only retrieves one element, and we don't want to retrieve all the deployed campaigns one at a time. Instead, I want to retrieve all of them instantly in one function call. So that's why I'm going to be making this separate function of get deployed campaigns. All right, so back inside of Remix, I'm going to start working on this. So this code will be straightforward. It's understanding what's going on that's going to be the real challenge. So I'm going to create a new contract above the existing one, like so. So I'm going to head up here, and right here I'm going to call it Contract Campaign Factory, like so. And inside of here, I'm going to declare the new variable to hold the list of all the different deployed campaigns. I'm going to do that like so. Address, which is an array, it's going to be public, and deployed campaigns is its name. Okay. Next, I'm going to declare the function that allows a user to create a new instance of a campaign. So this will be our create campaign function, like so. It's going to be function create campaign. Okay. This is also going to be public. And so this function is going to need to take one argument. Let me see what this says here. It says function state mutability can be restricted to pure function create campaign public expanding multiple lines. All right. So anyway, let's see if it goes away when I add the argument. So right now I'm expecting that when someone creates a campaign, they provide a constructor argument of the minimum amount of money that needs to be donated. Because the constructor requires the argument of unsigned integer minimum, and we're no longer expecting any users or anyone to be creating a campaign, I have to ensure that the create campaign function receives that minimum contribution argument and passes it along to the new campaign constructor function like so. So this will be an unsigned integer of minimum, okay? All right, so this is the minimum contribution that my new campaign expects. Now inside this function, I'm going to instruct this contract to deploy a new instance of campaign. And so to do so, I have to write out the following: new campaign, like so. All right, now let's see this error real quick. It says type error, wrong argument count for function call, 0 arguments given but expected one. All right, moving on. And I'm going to provide any constructor arguments it requires, which is the minimum contribution, like so. So in here, minimum. All right, so that took away that error, which is interesting. Let's take a look at that error. So the error says type error, wrong argument count. Okay, I've read that real quick. So wrong argument count for function call, 0 arguments given but expected 1. So it's saying, hey, I expect an argument in here. And sure enough, the argument expected is minimum, which I had already shared that that's what it needed, right? So that's it. This right here creates a new contract that gets deployed to the blockchain. after it occurs, it returns the address of the newly created campaign, and we can store it into a local variable and add it to the deployed campaigns array. So we can say we will declare a new variable of address and call it new campaign. So the way we do that is we'll say, let's see, how do I want to do this? So I'll say address, you know what? Oop. I don't know why I like it like that right here. So I'll say address, all right? And address can be called new campaign. And in there, we're going to store that new campaign. And now let's see what error we're getting. It says, warning, unused local variable. Right, this one, the new campaign. That's fine. All right, so we have this new variable, new local variable called new campaign, and its value comes from the campaign creation line here. After that, we can take this new campaign and add it to the deployed campaigns array. And I will do that like so. So let's see, right underneath this, we're going to do deployed campaigns dot push. And I'm going to say new campaign. Here's where I begin to use it. So you can see. All right, and so that error went away. All right. Okay, so that's it. Now there's one thing that is a bit of a gotcha around this deployment process. So back down inside of the campaign constructor function, inside of here. So inside of this campaign constructor function, I'm not only expecting the argument of minimum inside the constructor, but I also use the constructor to set up the manager of the contract, okay? Which is the value is this right here, that message.sender. So unfortunately, whenever we call this constructor function from another contract, the message.sender will be the other contract and not our user. So that has changed. So if we use the campaign factory to create an instance of a new campaign, the manager will be marked as our factory's address, and the manager is not the factory, but whoever's asked for this new instance of campaign to be created. So that's where the gotcha happens with what I just implemented above. So to gain access to the address of the person who's trying to create the new campaign, I need to get that address from inside the create campaign function, okay? And pass it into the constructor of the campaign contract. And this is because when we have one contract build another, the message global variable or the MSG global variable will be the campaign factory and not the user trying to make this thing anymore. So it's no longer the user creating the campaign. It's now the campaign factory. That's the address that gets stored in that message global variable or message.sender. So we have to pass in message.sender like so. So let's see here. So in here, I have to pass it into the create campaign message.sender. Okay. And so message.sender is the user trying to create the new campaign. Let me make sure I have this right. All right, so now, because I'm getting this error, which is saying declaration error, identifier not found or not unique. It's complaining about this. Okay, so now into the campaign, I can receive the address as an argument. Okay, so what I'll do is in the function campaign, all the way down here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this argument called address creator, okay? And I called it creator to make it obvious that this is the person trying to create the new contract. And instead of using message.sender, which is the address of the factory, I'm going to use a creator address like so. And I believe that will remove the error at the top. And it will unconfuse things? No? Okay. Go back. Where was I? Where's my... All right, let's see. So that's it for create campaign. Where's my create campaign? So that should be it for that. But I'm getting an error there. So there's a last thing I have to do, which is to add a function that returns the entire array of deployed campaigns. And I'll go ahead and add that. Let's see. So address, new campaign. I see where I screwed this up. So I'm getting this error. This error is saying declaration error, identifier not found or unique. Right. This does not belong here. My bad. So you got to see me make a mistake. This was so important to pay attention to detail. The message.sender belongs inside the new campaign, not in create campaign as an argument. All right, now I can do the next function, which is to get a list of all the deployed campaigns. So get deployed campaigns, or campaign, get deployed campaign. It's going to be public, and I'll explain this. View returns address. Okay. All right, so what am I doing here? Why do I have that there? All right, so it takes this get deployed campaign or function, takes no arguments, but it does return an address of arrays. And remember that public means anyone can call this function. And view means that no data inside the contract is modified by this function. And it returns the address array, which means that we're going to return a value of type address array. And then inside of this function, we can add on a return deployed contract like so. So we'll just do return. What does the error say before I do that? The error, or this thing saying function state mutability can be restricted to pure functions. Anyway, so return deployed campaigns like so. All right, and so that removes all the issues. All right, so there's our factory in total. So I have one function to create a new campaign right here, okay? And another function to return the list of all the campaigns created. All right, so in a subsequent video, I'm gonna test this out using Remix. I'll see you then.